Welcome everybody to the Bill's birthday bash and an annual birthday bash celebration at Counterpoint. It's my pleasure to welcome back Graeme from Counterpoint and Taylor, who's working in the background helping us. Justin's not joining us tonight because he is on maternity leave. They had their baby girl a couple weeks ago. So Graeme, I'm going to trip over this, aren't I?
Hey everyone. Hello, thanks for coming today, guys. Happy birthday, Bill.
Thank you.
The big 4-0.
Yeah. Unlike Troy, he's really being generous to me. Troy would have made me 70 today.
Must be 65 then.
64.
Oof.
This is 64.
All right.
Next year is 65.
That's how age is great. Sorry, I don't know. It was that much.
You're lucky you're that close to the door. You like me. So talk to me about resilience.
Yeah, so resilience is an interesting yet pretty simple beer. One of those beers we brewed a long time ago, put away in a barrel thinking that it would do well in the barrel, and checking it every so often. And it was our last barrel tasting that we did with the team. Actually, the whole team was here, and we tasted, I think, like nine barrels. So we released Opus 4, as you can remember, like a few months ago, and then this was one that we wanted to release as well. So timing worked out. We could release it for our 3rd anniversary. And just kind of one of those things, I don't know, the name kind of fit with the style of beer, the fact that it, toughed out 17 months in a barrel, and a couple doses of Brettanomyces, and here we are. It's we're just kind of indicative of, I don't know, feel like us as a business, as a brewery, and our customers and the people that stand with us, that we've made it this far. So to resilience.
To resilience, congratulations.
Thanks.
On 3 years.
Thank you. So it's a interesting, depending on how much sediment you get, it's fairly clear, low carbonated saison with Brett B and D, and sits at 7%. So somewhere in between, a nice light, I guess, crushable beer, still has substance and good body, and a lot of good but mild, barnyard funk, little slight, maybe slight smoke to it, and stone fruit, classic, like overripe apricot pit, stuff like that. So yeah, really enjoyable, and I find it easy to drink. It's one of my favorites. Well, Brett Saison is one of my favorite styles. Yeah. And oak, and yeah, definitely oak. Every time I smell it, I forget how it transitions in through the taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 3 years.
3 years. Yeah.
You could go back. Would you give yourself advice 3 years ago?
Don't open a brewery before a pandemic. Easy. Man, I don't know. I think just to expect something serious and very difficult to happen in the first, a few years, I think, and hopefully it can't happen twice in our brewery's lifetime, but our lifetime. Yeah, that's not wood. Yeah. I think I would say just to prepare for something serious as this, it wouldn't have dreamt of it happening. So
That's true.
Yeah.
You have been through a lot in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Transition from a partnership to solo.
Mm-hmm.
2 years of the pandemic.
Mhm.
City letting you have a patio out there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something else, right? So work on that this year. Hopefully make something a little prettier. Nicer to enjoy outside. It'll be nice to yeah, look for some type of setting where people can enjoy it and not necessarily have to stare at Victoria Street, but we'll see. Keep it simple, but dress it up a bit, I think.
I just have pictures of the background like in Bugs Bunny cartoons going around.
Right, yeah.
People in the street.
Yeah.
So what's coming up this year?
No plans.
No plans.
No plans at all. Just well, I lie. We've got between lockdowns and big waves, you know, we've got a new used brewing system to set up. So that's front of mind when Justin gets back from his parental leave. Then we'll be looking at setting up that system. So increase capacity a little bit, make his and my life easier when it comes to production and planning and that sort of thing, and make a bit more beer. So that's really part of it. Focus for the next few months anyways. Yeah.
What's the next barrel like?
To be determined. Yeah, to be determined, leaning towards hopeful that we've got a maple syrup, a bourbon turned maple syrup barrel turned imperial stout barrel. So hoping that that'll be ready for like maple syrup season, but that's around the corner like now. So we'll have to see if it's ready. If not, then we'll just keep tasting and see what's coming up next. Yeah. There was another candidate, but I cannot recall which barrel it was. So just keep emptying and filling and see what happens.
Well, the space has changed since I was here brewing the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Because you now have a lot more barrels.
Yeah.
More storage.
Yeah.
So what's your usual what's your usual process for checking the barrels? How often?
Checking barrels, we would do about ideally every month, but you know, there's not find that, you know, you test too often and you can't tell if anything's changed, or, you know, we make a lot of notes and try and remember what we've tasted, but you know, when you're tasting that many barrels in one sitting, it can be difficult. So, you know, every couple months we sit down, we try and get our whole team in as well so that they can experience that as well. Like, it's so interesting tasting, I guess it could be considered like the raw product before it's, you know, carbonated, chilled, ready to drink. It's nice to taste it and see it develop. So we sit down, we'll compare notes from the last tasting, you know, to what we're tasting on that day, and you know, decide if it's something that is ready to go on its own, or consider blending with another barrel, and then we'll have to sit down again with some different proportions and look at blending that. So yeah, it's quite a process, and it really comes down to, like, you know, record keeping and notes, because you think you can remember what, you know, you're I don't know, the last time you had heady topper, you know, will taste like, and you'll taste it and like, oh yeah, tastes different this time. But I mean, your memory is not as good as we think it is.
Definitely. This is why you keep copious notes.
Especially at 40.
Remember, I'm between you and the door. And you'll trip over Taylor getting out of the way.
Okay.
But I do like the fact that you are poking fun. Thank you.
I mean, I'm pretty much 40, and my memory is probably worse than yours. So.
No, I don't think so. I have notes on my mirror in the morning. Your name still.
Perfect.
What's been the most fun barrel you've made?
I think I enjoyed our 20 Hertz series. which really stemmed from the name was obviously the meaning behind it is the lowest frequency that the human ear can recognize. So a big, bold, dark beer just seemed to resonate with that name. So yeah, and we did 2 very fresh bourbon barrels with the same recipe. Oh, the next beer. Yeah. Yeah, just very bold, big stouts, going into 2 fresh bourbon barrels, and came out, as great as we could have hoped for our first barrel aged beers. And it was nice to have just that clean yet very boozy, bourbony. It's kind of like my dream beer, so I was very pleased with it. And then from then, on our second and third second fills on each barrel, we played around with it a bit. We did one with coffee vanilla, and then we did another that was the granola stout with oats, and vanilla, cinnamon, coconut, I think. Yeah, so just full of good granola goodness. So yeah. So the first ones, and I think probably my favorite. So we've got more stouts and boozy barrels. So coming up, that's pretty much, I don't know, half, no, 3/4 of the new shipment. Stouts and rum, or sorry, rye and bourbon barrels. So
Standard.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, I know you haven't been open long enough to gone to, but how many times would you reuse a barrel?
We are up to 3 uses. Actually, the 4th use on those original bourbon barrels. So, we get 2 fresh, very fresh, uses out of the spirit barrels. And then you kind of lose, while you still hang on to some hints of it. They serve their purpose very well, I think, for 2 runs, and then we can transition them into sort of other uses, whether it's we infect them with some souring bacteria and Brett, or we keep them clean and just kind of age them for some milder oaky residue. So yeah.
Well, I know a couple of other guys who do barrel aging talk about becoming neutral barrels, basically.
Yeah.
You're just putting a beer in to age it.
Yeah.
You're not adding any flavor from the barrel. Barrel's just basically a neutral. It's just a carrying vessel.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, Taylor, some people have already had it. They don't have to. You can just ask if they want it, then yeah. Oh, I don't know. Ask Bill. It's his birthday.
Let's ask a question. Of course. Amazing. You're saying it was supposed to be put in the chat.
Oh, it's right here. Bill, the audio of your end of the conversation isn't coming through well. Granola stout has raisins too. Oh my gosh, we're missing a lot here.
You're saying that you've got 4 uses of the barrels. Do you typically put the same type of beer in the same barrel? Like, so if you're doing, I don't know how beer problem is talking about. If you're doing a pale ale in one and a step in another, you have a bar off the barrel, make sure to do the same thing in that barrel next time, or does it matter? Or
I would say it matters, definitely. So part of like note keeping, like every barrel is labeled. That's for our own purpose, but also CRA likes to see that kind of stuff too. So, but yeah, it definitely matters. And I mean, you could pull like a pale ale out, and depending on what the origin of the barrel is, the type of wood, and the yeast that was in there with the pale ale, we'll give it a rinse sometimes, or sometimes we won't, just depending on what the use is. But you're never going to can't actually truly clean the barrel, so you'll know that it'll affect it in some way or another. So yeah, so actually I can answer that further. Like for the first 2 uses of our first bourbon barrels, they were both imperial stouts, and then we've moved on to like a dark saison and a brown ale, or brown ale then saison. Do we want to go through these questions here? Can I have one too?
Absolutely.
Bill, can you show us the crowd? It's all blurry. Okay. Will there still be a patio this summer? Oh. Good question. Good question. Yeah. So the plan is to set up a patio this summer. Right now, the city has allotted sort of like the COVID patio takes us from January to March. So they did a very short window, and my guess is their prediction that, you know, COVID is easing up. So, and with restrictions lifted and the capacity being maxed out inside, means that they don't necessarily have to keep businesses going by allowing us extra space outside at, you know, and they're very lenient and generous with that, which is great. And it served a purpose for sure. So I think we'll have to go through the full application process. And I'm not sure if I can get away with, you know, kegs as the border or boundaries, or if I have to set up something a little more permanent, and then, you know, have to check in with the landlord as well. And maybe the AGCO has given us the green light for the year, so that's great, but I have to check all the boxes. Granola stout had raisins too. Yes, thank you, Galen. That was the missing ingredient. And then somebody says, Bill, the audio on your end of the conversation isn't coming through well.
We just move it closer.
Yeah.
You want to talk to me about this one?
Well, Bill, how about you talk to us about this one?
This one was a complete disaster. Because I got the first whirlpool okay when I was stirring in the malt. It didn't disturb the bottom, but the second one, unfortunately, I made Justin work really, really hard on getting it removed from it because I got the screen on the bottom lifted off.
Yeah.
But other than that, I haven't tried this yet, but everyone tells me it turned out really well. I had to talk to Graeme originally about maybe doing a Scottish ale.
Mhm.
And then Justin and I traded a few emails back and forth, and we sort of decided to try a wee heavy style, which means higher than 5%, 6%.
Yeah. Let's switch that off.
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Happy birthday.
Yeah. Brothers from 40, 70, 64.
Yeah, can you
Eric,
switch?
you gave me that inexpensive
The
beer.
compressor
Thank
off.
you.
It's just the top right.
It's just like a chase in between the tasters. It's just forgotten.
Just a disaster. The disaster
I
beer.
thought you were going to invite me for another, boat race, which I will never do.
Yeah. I mean,
You didn't see me 4 hours after it was done.
Yeah.
You did my wife like 4 hours in bed. I like this. It turned out well.
great. Yeah. Very pleased with it as well. It's it's good. Malty is really what you're aiming for, right? That's the style.
Classic Scottish we have.
Yeah.
So when you talk to Justin, thank him for me.
I will have to drop one
I will
off.
drop it in email.
He hasn't had the beer yet. He hasn't had a few of these beers yet. Yeah, so it's really just, yeah, I mean, it's in general just a fairly basic beer, but just designed to have, good medium body with pretty much all flavor stemming from the malt, the grain bill. So a variety of grain in there that gives it its character, which is nice.
So there's been a lot of talk with everybody about supply chain interruptions over the last couple of years. How's it been for craft food industry? We know there was a shortage of cans for a while, but that's kind of gone to the wayside.
Yeah, it seems to have, and not a huge issue for us generally because we don't, we can when we're really busy and we can outsource that, which is nice. But otherwise, our bottles have been delayed a couple times, but we've gotten them in reasonable time still. Packaging was a big one, so cardboard to get 6-pack carriers. you know, it was like 2 months, 2 months to get cardboard. It's cut and glued. So that was a fun challenge at times, but you know, between other breweries and stuff, like we've been working together with them. If other breweries have some, then we'll buy some from them and vice versa. So we've traded back and forth. The main thing is so the expense of everything has gone up, the cost of everything. So especially cardboard bottles have gone up a bit, you know, caps and everything like that. And then you deal with shipping costs have obviously, especially as of late with gas going up and shortage of trucks and road and that kind of thing. So shipping's gone up quite a bit. So it's more so, I would say, the cost for us than the actual material or supply chain.
So how's the malt?
Malt has been steady for us. We haven't had any issues. We're also glad to be dealing, you know, with a lot more Ontario products, which especially malt and yeast specifically. And then we've dove into a little more Ontario hops as well. So yeah, dealing with that I think that helps as well. It helps with cost, helps with timeline, helps with just general keeping things steadier here. So, and we'll stock up when we have an order. We'll try and put in a good size order so we know that we won't have to scramble later on.
Who's your favorite malt supplier?
We've only dealt with Barnell,
Okay.
and I'm extremely happy with them. So, yeah, they're, you know, only dealt with Devin there, and yeah, they've been really good and really transparent as to their timeline. So, you know, a few weeks before, I think we need malt, chat with them and put in an order, and they can pretty much tell us when everything will be ready. They have some that, you know, their base malt in stock, and then they've got some of the other, I guess, not quite specialty, but some stuff like their wheat and Vienna and stuff that's not as produced as regularly. So they can tell us what's in their schedule and when we'll get it, which is great. So we just have to make sure that we're not in a rush for it. Sure. Yes, Mike.
For hops, how far ahead do you have to book that you can't say, hey, can I have 30 pounds of cascade?
Yeah.
Are you booking next year's crop already, or how far ahead?
No, we've been running. We did do a contract, a couple types of hops in our second year, but generally we're just doing what they call spot hops or spot purchases, and we have not had any issues. I would say that, you know, the downside to that is probably is pricing. But again, you know, there are sales or that we'll stock up on, for instance, and knowing what we're producing for the next few months, we'll be able to do that. And then sort of like also, you know, kind of bulk up an order so that, you know, we pay once for shipping versus multiple times. Within Ontario, farms are growing. There was a point in time last year, the year before, where we would talk to new farmers and saying, hey, like, you know, we have a very limited supply. You have to order by this time to get in. But more and more growth every year has allowed them to be a little more flexible as well. So yeah, we've dealt with a couple farms and they locally, and they've even delivered like next day kind of thing, which is really nice and convenient and great, right? But it's one of those things too, like a lot of these producers have staff with, say, multiple jobs. If it's not in season or harvest season, then and they, you know, they work in Kitchener or they work on the other side of the 401 or whatever, and they're driving by so we can deliver, so which is really handy. So, but yeah, so.
For the bigger hops, like the Galaxies, the ones that come from Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah.
Are you finding you have to get those like were bigger hops, or are those kind of the same as more money?
Yeah, I mean, they're expensive anyways, right? So you kind of accept that. And then, you know, our pricing system will dictate that as well. Like the pricier our beer, it's just based on the price of our, the cost of our ingredients. So it's reflected that way. So you'll see, like, some people will say, well, why is this IPA more expensive than that IPA? And that's simply it, right? It's the hops that we used, how much we've used. We haven't had too much trouble. Now, mind you, we're also very accepting of, okay, we can't get Galaxy. Like I'm not going to worry too much unless I really want to reproduce a beer that we've done before, or include that in our next recipe. Then we'll go on a big hunt, which we have done. But overall, I mean, quite happy with the varieties. And we're also big on trying like new varieties that we haven't tried before. Like if you had Next Thank You, it was 100% Ariana hops, which is a German hop, which surprised us because it was a big, juicy IPA, great IPA hop. So we've purchased more of that. And again, it's not a huge popular hop, and it's not as big as some of the big like Galaxy or let's say Nelson or anything like, that is not as popular, maybe not as big in flavor, but it's a great hop and has great flavor. So it's fun to use. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. You took my questions away, so I was going to talk to him about the hop supply chain.
It's fresh hearing it from somebody else.
Yes. Are there more hop growers in Ontario, or just the
There are
farmers that
quite a few. There's a big, I believe can't remember the exact term, but the Hop Growers Association. And there are dozens of farms, and spread out across from, as we know, like, kind of Tavistock way up to like towards Quebec. So, and I would love to get into more tasting with let's say the same breed of hops, but from different terroir, and get that coming through to see, what the differences are. So
that would be an interesting tasting program.
Yeah.
What the impact of the two are on a hop that's from different regions of Ontario.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Now we're down to the next three. Yeast, do you harvest and maintain your own yeast stock, or do you get fresh?
So we buy fresh from escarpment when needed, but we do harvest our yeast, and maintain it. We have a very simple program which has worked for us. It will be nice at one point to improve our lab, but we have is pretty much the hemocytometer in a microscope, so we can do cell counts to check in on yeast health, and then also it allows us to better estimate, how much yeast to use for, how much we're going to pitch for the next beer. So, you use too much, you can get, overly dry beer, or, just it'll overproduce alcohol, that kind of thing. Or if you underpitch, then again, off flavors and that kind of thing. Right. So, and an unfinished beer, realistically. So so we try our best to do that, and it's worked out fairly well for us, I would say. We just cut it off at 10 generations, because we just kind of at a point where feel comfortable with 10. We could maybe push it, but then we get into that territory where we haven't done it before, and it just might end up, I don't know, with a bad batch, and we're trying to avoid that. So comfortable where we get a good use out of it. Our money gets stretched a little further that way as well, and it's also more, it's nice. And some brewers, and depending on who you talk to, will say like the first pitch, fresh pitch is not as, actually you don't get the full potential of the yeast out of it. So 2 or 3 pitches in is ideal for some, but I have yet to see. I feel like we're pretty consistent, and what we get from escarpment is high quality and ready to go. So never been disappointed.
And this is a repitch.
Yeah, you were there. It was fresh, like pulled and dumped. Yeah.
I offered the hammer on the side of the tank.
Oh yeah, but we've seen the way you handle our equipment, Bill. So
Yes, I know. It's lucky you can allow me to hear this.
Yeah. So
what are we tasting next?
our next beer is Night Glow, which is a nice mid-level ABV stout. light medium body with locally roasted coffee beans from the KW Coffee Collective. Well, actually from Contrabean, who roasts at the KW Coffee Collective. They make some really cool coffee, and they source from, they're very ethical when it comes to sourcing their beans. Different styles of beans that I don't understand that end of things at all, but pea berry and I don't know, some other stuff too. But delicious stuff, and we've used their coffee before. And then we added some raw cocoa nibs, organic cocoa nibs as well to this for some chocolatey smoothness. So interested to hear everybody's feedback on the level of coffee on this. If anybody wants to punch in there. Emma likes it. Cool. What's that, Jen? Yeah. Okay, good. More the better. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we'll make another stout for you. Yeah.
So how do you decide how much coffee bean?
It's just based on previous recipes. I mean, we take a guess. I mean, again, even from our homebrew recipes, and scaling up, and then it's a bit different on a batch this size, but yeah, I would say trial and error, but it's not necessarily error, just sort of trial and trial again, and make adjustments from there. So it's also tough sometimes because it depends on the type of coffee you use, the type of roast you use. So if we're a little more consistent, then it might be easier to hone in. I'm quite pleased with this. And over time, it's also come into its own. It's really quite nuanced, I find, with some good coffee notes, but not just coffee, like nuts and dried fruit and that kind of thing, which is really nice.
Just whole wheat.
We do, yeah. After it's fermented, it's yeah. It's like a dry hopping, call it dry beaning for fun, but yeah, dry beaned beer. We have Graham Hardy says if I could repeat the question, it would help us fill out the reply. Okay.
Sometimes amongst the little girls, it's hard to repeat the question.
For the crowd, I'm not used to this. Yes.
All do it.
I'm not sure how much more experience you had with the different coffee that you have. How different would it be if you did like a cold brew concentrate? Still for me, but.
Yeah.
What would change?
So we're curious as to how this would be different if we did cold brew coffee instead of whole bean.
It's a good question. I haven't tried it. I've had friends that have put in, like brewed coffee and then put it in. Essentially, I mean, this is your cold steeping beans. So in its own way, it's a cold brew, but plus with the alcohol, almost like a mild tincture to pull out as much flavor as possible versus I would say a cold brew, a traditional cold brew. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're just really happy with, we did some trials prior to opening on a homebrew scale with coffee versus coffee beans, and this worked out best. And also like when it came to quantities, this was more effective than just brewing coffee and then pouring it in and that kind of thing. And then you're also, introducing more material like water essentially, or coffee, right? Which so then there's oxygen and that kind of thing, which may be detrimental to the beer. So yeah, it just seems like the simplest, easiest, cleanest, and tastiest way for us. So yeah. Derek? Excuse me. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've discussed it, so it may be an option, especially now with another 6 taps. We could potentially allocate one to nitro. Yeah, think of your triple IPAs on nitro. Very true. Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, definitely like nice stouts on nitro. The dream.
I just want to point out to all of you sitting here, not that you at home can do this, but there are cupcakes over there in lieu of me making a cake. So anytime you feel free, there's plates, napkins, forks, and Thomas, my son, will move out of the way. You might go sit and join Troy and them over there. So that way you can just wander up and get yourself a cupcake whenever you would like.
Just a suggestion, I guess.
Just a suggestion, Thomas.
If we're having cupcakes, and it's a cake. Typically at birthdays, we sing. Yeah. Everyone's nodding. We sing, right?
Okay, but which birthday are you going to use?
I
Happy-
don't think you said the numbers.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you go ahead and embarrass me because I'm not on the screen right now.
For us, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah.
Happy
birthday to
you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Bill. Happy birthday to you.
You could have brought the candle.
Tea lights don't cut it. Ooh, Galen says sick flow, Bill. Happy birthday. Graham says the hair.
Yes, there.
Looks good. Which is shocking.
Why is it shocking?
Pete has promised me he will put trends in my area long enough, okay?
Yeah.
Everybody's. Cheers, everybody. Thank you. So, Graham.
Yes.
It's time for a question now.
Perfect. Just hang out and drink our beer. You don't usually interview people on a birthday, do you? Bill, I'd like to ask you a question. What did you do for your birthday?
Oh. I usually work on my birthday. I never worry. However, on the morning of my birthday, sorry, we have to turn the mic off.
What?
Turn the mic off.
I don't know.
This cannot be on public. This cannot be publicly.
All right, we're back. We're back.
We're back, everybody. Sorry about that. Couldn't be on record with what happened. I'm not done this one, but I can set up a second later.
You got all night?
Talk to me about the third beer.
Sure. It's your birthday.
It's my memory, 70 and I'm losing it.
Yeah. Yeah, so this one is End the Week Strong, a collaboration with, of course, Ren Navarro. Just one of those things, really wanted to celebrate with Ren. And, she agreed to brew with us. And she's not doing too much in the way of collabs, really. Ren has a lot on the go right now, a lot of training, a lot of education. And so her time is precious, and we're really flattered that she decided to brew with us and go to the big triple IPA for our third anniversary. Ren chose these hops because they're her favorite. And on top of that, probably saw we did some design collaboration for a t-shirt as well, which involved some of Ren's favorite things as well. I actually took them down. I'll tell you about that shortly. The design was based on a few of Ren's favorite things like skulls, cats, and tattoos. And so we have the three-eyed sphinx and skull and tattoo like design, which is pretty cool. One of our, I think it's my favorite shirt that we've designed, and just really, really cool. And it's got Ren's signature on it, so it's it's edgy. It's good. It's got a lot of her and on it, and super happy to be collaborating with Ren. So and then this one is just big, 10% beer with a lot of hops, and it's I don't know, in my opinion, it's fairly drinkable still at 10%, and there's lots of pleasant aromas and flavors to do with these these great hops.
I would say this is very dangerous at 10% because it doesn't drink like 10%.
Yeah, which I know it's good and bad, I guess, right? I mean, you want to know, but you also, I mean, it's not always pleasant to taste, liquor booziness in a beer. So it's a nice way to do it. So I'll do this. I mean, I'll say it on the record. I'm very embarrassed about this. The whole t-shirt I took down because after designing it, proofing it, and getting it printed and selling dozens of them, there's a typo on the shirt. So Terry here's nice enough to wear it. So if you'll take your sweater off. So I will, if you'll see, yeah, we're now Counterpoint Brewing.
There were like several who wanted the typo to the rare coins that have
Yeah.
they're like, no, I need this typo.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with them. Maybe we'll donate them, or I mean.
How many of you guys want to buy?
No. We're playing.
Yeah, $10 more.
So we will be replacing, or at least providing one. If you want to keep the old one, that's on you. But yeah.
I understand that was probably the best typo that's been done. Because if you missed, let's say, instead, it could have ended up very poorly. A really good one would have been Counterpoint. That one also been
So
There's a whole dialogue going on right now for those of you out there about the typo. Which way it could have been better. I want to point out that you can proofread 100 times and you will still miss one thing.
Yeah, definitely one of those brain tricks. For sure. Yeah. See it in a novel or anything, right?
About the actual story,
Yes.
there's gotta be a breaking point between like for a triple. And the last hockey after go, I haven't had it, so I gotta counteract the super test, they bounce it over here. There's gotta be a limit to how many hops you can have, that's how.
Yeah.
Like a quadruple or material. Eventually the hops, how you won't count how more often you do it there.
Yeah. You can only saturate it so much and yeah, agreed. Interesting thing we found, so there are yeah, a good quantity more hops, not as much more as you would expect in a way, and we chalk it up to a little bit of that alcohol content, right? Like you got more alcohol, so you're extracting more flavor aroma as well. But yeah, there is more. We've kind of, in our opinion, kind of reached a limit, and this would be kind of that limit. And it's not used, I would say, like you bring up like to counteract booziness. It's not really to counteract that. I think that it can help. I think, cover up some flavor, but I really think like the base, our recipe, and again, I mean, I've said it before, like we don't really know what we do to not, so that our 10% beers aren't boozy. I don't know. We don't know what it is, but it turns out, and that's the part, like, because we've tasted it, before being hopped, and it's warm, and you think that would really get to you, but you don't get that smell or that heat from the beer. So yeah, I mean, you can push it, but I mean, we've kind of just reached a point where like, okay, we're happy with this. Why would we do more and possibly waste some? But I mean, I don't know. We could, maybe it's not a waste, right? There are other breweries, like a Barn Cat Badlands, for instance, that pack it in way more than this, and you can tell, and their beer is really good, and you can taste it, right? You taste all the hops are in there. So I don't know, maybe we should try something like that. But we're just very pleased with it, and it's not, not offensive. If you can make a 10% beer that's this many hops, it's not offensive. It's enjoyable, and yeah, very pleased. Yeah, the sneakiness. Yeah.
So how many different collabs have you done over the years?
Oh, that's a good question, Bill. Really good question. I don't know. I'd probably say a dozen now. Or I mean, really, we did a couple with a couple local sort of businesses or organizations prior to this past year, and then started going a bit crazy with a few other breweries and continuing with other organizations, or like a few with you as well, right? So yeah, probably about a dozen. So yeah,
I'm surprised you invited me back after the last one. I mean, the first one.
I mean, I think you invited yourself, Bill, but
I just showed up. I want to do a beer with you tonight. Please.
Well, we're here for you. Well, I don't.
Very patient with me.
We've had a couple batches where we've had to empty the mash tun, so I don't know. We're gonna have to safety that one.
Hopefully, with the new system, I won't be able to do that.
Hopefully. That's a lot more. It's a lot more grain to deal with.
That Bill brings along a group of degenerates. So even if he needs to throw away a barrel or two, you're gonna make it up eventually. Thank you. I'm here for this.
Matt just remarked about the fact that I attract a crowd of degenerates, which I don't necessarily agree with. There are a few people,
In a nice way.
but there are a few people that I might question.
Let's see, what's the typo? P is silent. Time for another rebrand. Yeah, okay.
Not the way you want to do a rebrand, I was just.
No, that's not happening for a while. Just new shirts, new shirts. I mean, really, everybody's just paying attention to the Rendavaro and the three-eyed Sphinx. Yeah, yeah. Perfect. What's that? Counterpoint.
What? The peanut gallery back there. Just send me something.
Just 3 comments, nothing happens. I say unreal stuff. You point at me, you go, this guy. This is where the truck degenerates. All right, fair enough.
Mike?
One last question.
Oh, your question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah.
Is this your, I think I've mentioned this before, sorry, if I have. Is this your primary brewing space?
This is our only brewing space. Yeah.
Contract somewhere else, because I noticed, are those your primary fermenters? The polymers are on the corners?
Yeah, yeah. So Mike's, just for the people online, Mike's asking if this is where we brew our beer.
Doesn't seem to be any temperature control.
Yeah, yeah.
So you
So
still produce stuff like this.
our HVAC system
Or
is,
fire.
so, well, yeah, it's a really good question because, yeah, we fool a lot of people that way. It's true. Like the size of our, the size of our tank or our brew house, the size of our tanks, and then the fact that they're just plastic fermenters. So the main thing that allows us to do that is good cleaning practice, because plastic can be prone to, scratches, which can lead to, gathering, I don't know, I would say like dangerous or not dangerous, unsafe, same thing, gross bacteria, just call it that, that we don't want in our beer. So the main thing is, cleaning practices, treating it well, but also mainly using yeast strains that are content at this temperature range. So we just kind of keep it at a room temperature, just below kind of room temperature, consistently, and we just use proper yeast that can work well at these temperatures. So you'd be surprised, most people just assume kvike, but we really don't use kvike. It's good in some circumstances, but we've just enjoyed other ones. Yeah, other ones a bit better. So Verdant yeast, Foggy, London, and then Vermont ale as well. So are the main ones we would use, but then of course, saison yeast and that kind of thing as well. It's pretty. Yep. So, and we deal with that as well on cast out, like our pitch temperature, because we're using groundwater, and we have a very simple, 2 sort of chillers combined. We really can't get our temp that low again. So at this point with our new system, we've got a new chiller that will work into the system as well. And yeah, so that's pretty much the secret. It's not a secret. So yeah. 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 So that one is, and we've picked up a small little, like, I don't know if you see that little machine beside it. It's called the, I don't know, R2 unit. We got it from Short Finger because they were done with it, because they upgraded to a full glycol system. So we got that. So that's for 1 tank, and that will act as our bright tank. So right now we're moving beer from our plastic fermenters to corny kegs, force carving each one in the fridge. We've got, I'll show you after if you want. We've got a manifolds, 2 manifolds there with 14 lines, force carving our beer. So we found for sure like there's some irregularity between carbonation levels, and it's also just not ideal, inefficient. So this way we'll be able to carve up and fill Sankey's, and then much less work for us when it comes to selling to restaurants and bars and also just a better quality beer, more uniform anyways, I would say. So yeah. So that was online, and then our pump broke, our new pump broke the first day we used it. So so dealing with some warranty issues on that. So what's that? Shouldn't be. It was, but it's being resolved. So so yeah, pleased to move on with that. Yeah.
One last question.
Okay.
Your most hilarious beer story. Short of having to deal with me brewing beer with you.
Beer's all business, Bill. There's no fun in beer.
It's never been instead of printing the new shirts,
All business. I don't know. I don't think I have a funny beer story. Like I think the shirt's probably the funniest thing. Funny and really expensive. More expensive than losing a batch of beer. All right, I was like.
No, not
All right. Guys, thank you for tuning in online tonight to the show. Appreciate it. Next week, Benjamin Murphy's Law is joining me. We're going to learn all about making moonshine the way they do it in West Virginia. We're now going to go and enjoy some cupcakes. You guys have a great time. I'll see you next week.